100 Entrepreneurs, you guys have been with me from the very beginning. You know, I started this company, the Franchise Pros. For those of you on the call that I haven't met yet, started this company about 7 years ago. I was in the midst of a life and career transition myself. Bob alluded to it a little bit earlier. And I had just been laid off with a tiny company some of you may have heard of called Verizon. I was Verizon's VP for Public Policy here in the Washington, D.C. area for about 8 years prior. And, you know, here I am. I'm in my late 30s at the time, have a husband, have a house, have bills to pay, and we also had a 17-month-old baby. And so that really put me in a bind because my husband, by the way, has always been an entrepreneur. So I was the only one bringing the steady paycheck in, right? And so there were all of these different layers of considerations. And in the final analysis, I came to pretty fast. And the analysis was, I really was just the most horrid employee ever. Like I was just not cut out to be an employee. That was number one. Two, I was never going to go back to corporate. That much was pretty clear. But then the question became, what would the next look like? I'll spare you guys the gory details. Suffice to say, I found the world of franchising. I was very skeptical, and Bob and I have talked about this at length. I was very skeptical because I didn't know if I believed all the claims I heard about successful franchises. It felt too good to be true. And so I did what I typically do. I donned my due diligence hat on, and I really did a deep dive into the industry to understand, you know, is this an MLM? Is this a multi-level marketing? Is this some sort of pyramid scheme? Is this some sort of thing where you try to sell to your friends and family until you run out of friends and family, right? And you guys know what I'm talking about. And it was none of these things. And I said to myself, this is unbelievable. There exists in this country a viable, proven, robust path to entrepreneurship, if that's what you want to do, that allows you to build an asset for yourself and your family, that when you are ready to step away from that, you've truly built an asset that you can then sell, and that becomes your exit. And it's been an amazing partnership. Why? You know, for those of you who've worked with me, and I see a couple faces, some known faces, I will not pick on them. They should feel free to jump in if they so wish, who've worked with me. And you guys know, I always lead with one thing. And this might sound funny to some people who think, you know, we are in a business conversation. For myself and my team, I always say we lead with love. Particularly in the world in which we live, everything has become so transactional and everything is so super fast, and it's let's get to the bottom line as fast as we can, and we will do all of that. We are here to help you guys find the right franchise opportunity or to turn your business into one if that's where you are. But that does not mean it has to be done in transactional terms. And so for me, that's kind of where we begin. I believe that's what's allowed us to really distinguish ourselves in the industry that we are in. We've been in quite a bit of a growth spurt mode, as Bob knows. So my days are no longer necessarily my days anymore because I've been traveling quite a bit. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. 7 years of doing this work, being in this industry, we've probably worked with well over 150 veterans.
Wow.
We've placed, as I mentioned, we've placed many veterans in many different businesses, many different brands. I'll give you the most recent example. We placed Chris, I won't tell you his last name. We placed Chris in a business, this was in May of this year. And Chris came to us as a logistics manager. He was in the Army. And he was at that point where he was going through the transitional stuff that the military goes through, right? The different things he needed to do to kind of, you know, sign off. So he was in that stage. And he said, you know, I'm exploring a couple of different things, but my mentor, who, by the way, has also been on a 100 Entrepreneurs workshop just like this, who I had worked with, he had referred Chris to me. And so he said, my mentor referred me to you, and he said, blah, blah, blah. I've never thought about a franchise, but here I am. So we put him through our process, which is a purely educational process we take our clients through. And in almost down to the dot in 3 months, Chris is now the owner of a business that works in, it's a retail model. It sells different kinds of CBD products to the market at a high level. That's what he does. What makes veterans really great for franchise opportunities, Bob? Again, you and I have spoken at length about this particular topic. I think the biggest thing that vets bring to franchising is the incredible skill that they have in being able to follow a playbook. And this is where Mr. Martinez will be able to share more specific examples as the franchisor. But when you have a playbook and your success hinges on being able to follow that playbook to be able to replicate the success that your franchisor has already produced, it can create incredible exponential gains in that particular system, in that particular model. Veterans are second to none in their ability to follow a playbook. I would say that would absolutely be number one, Bob. I love the no BS approach that vets come with. Again, if you work with me, you know this is my style. If you need guidance in figuring out the right franchise opportunity to invest into, we will guide you all the way. But if that's not what you want to do, then we should cut the conversation short, right? So it's a very simple approach. Veterans, I find, they come with that. By the same token, though, because they come with that, there is an ease with which they conduct themselves with others. It's not stilted, it's not super formal necessarily, but it's a way in which they engage that I have always found incredibly endearing. When you become a franchisee, you're essentially a business owner, and you are essentially absolutely selling something, even though you might not call yourself that, but you are selling something, either a product or a service. And a huge part of your success depends on your ability to, one, put yourself in the shoes of the customer you're talking to, and two, being able to empathize with them. Veterans bring a combination of these things to the table. The ones that I have worked with, the ones that we have eventually ended up placing in different franchises. You know, it's been a very organic approach as the business has grown. So we first began working by helping people find the right franchise opportunity to get into. The bulk of the work we now do falls into two buckets. That second bucket being, we work with business owners who are at a point in their growth of their business where they want to take that business and take it nationwide. And we take them through essentially this 5-month process where we turn their existing business into a national franchise brand. So that's the second piece of work. And then that final third piece of work we do with clients, these businesses that are now a new franchise, we help take that franchise nationwide by becoming their sales team to recruit franchisees into their new system, and then provide the kind of operational support that both the franchise brand and the franchisees that we are recruiting for them are going to need to be able to launch successfully. Bob, we partner with over 650 different franchise brands, at least. And these brands come in every category you can imagine. So food is an obvious one. Food, children, senior care, education, entertainment, healthcare, medical, fitness, wellness. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mr. Martinez is in that waste management, junk hauling space, right? On and on and on and on. Every industry category has a sweet spot, which is essentially a range, so A to B. I would say for veterans, if you are looking at sort of your what if there's a minimum amount, which is there really isn't, a minimum or a viable amount, a business that actually allows you to produce a 6-figure income, let's put it that way. Because there are businesses that you can get into for like $10,000 and you're never able to break even just on your investment. So let's say a business that allows you to replicate a 6-figure income, you are looking at a total investment of anywhere between 85 to 120,000, 150,000. on the minimum end. Of that amount, Bob, you are never expected to come to the table with the entire amount. The bulk of it is going to be financed, either through a bank, through some sort of particular loan instrument. You bring a certain amount to the table, skin in the game, if you will, but that amount varies based on the total amount. If you remember, Bob, this was maybe 8-9 months ago. I think it was, where we had our funding concierge come on this workshop. So there was a franchisor, and so her name is Mona. And essentially what she does is she works with every client that we work with. So when you come to us, we get you with her immediately. She does a deep dive on your specific financials. And based on that deep dive, she will then come back and say, here are the top 3 funding mechanisms that would be most optimal for you, given that your cash liquidity is this, your net worth is this, and these are the brands that Faizun and the team are showing you. What that does is it immediately allows us to really narrow down, because remember I said around 650 franchises. There's got to be a logical way for us to be able to narrow down so that this process does not take months and months on end. When we understand what financial range you're going to fall into, we can then start showing you, the client, brands that fall in those particular categories and industries. So that's a service that we provide to clients as well. That's included in our package of services. We typically begin with, really, it's a conversation. Better understand 2 things: why a franchise and why now? Those 2 questions, for those of you on the call who might have an interest in franchising, I'll give you this little secret. Your answer helps me determine if you are really seriously going to embark on this or if you are not. We do a lot of the heavy lift, but there's also quite a bit of work that you, the candidate, need to go through. At the end of the day, we are helping you find a vehicle that allows you to live life on your terms, whatever those terms are for you. I have never taken that lightly. Bob, this was my why I left corporate. I never felt like I was living life on my own terms, and that was very important for me. And so this is now what we help every single client do. So if you come on board, and if we take you on board as a client, we're very serious about the process we're going to put you through, but it also requires that you bring some skin in the game, because ultimately it's your life, it's your money, it's your decision at the end of the day.